This is a video for lesson 7.4. So far in chapter 7, we've learned how to set up proportions and we've started using them with triangles to find missing sides. In lesson 7.4, what we're going to do is we're going to find some special ways that you can set up proportions to solve problems with your triangles. And some of them are going to have to do with parallel lines that we're going to be working with. Here's an example I want you to think about. Okay, so let's say that you're older, doing fairly well, and you decide to have some oceanfront property. Okay, well, how expensive the property is depends on how many feet of beach you have on the ocean. So here's your property. You know that you have 50 feet along the road that goes in front of your house, and you know you have 80 feet of ocean with you. Your neighbor has 70 feet on the road. You're wondering about how much oceanfront property do you have, because he just sold his house and you want to kind of compare what the value is happening with. Okay, well, we're going to learn how to do that, and it has to do with the parallel lines. Whenever you have parallel lines, what you can basically do is set up the things that are across from each other as a proportion to figure out missing parts of the kind of like sections that end up being. You don't have to really work with a whole triangle, you're just working with the parts. So like here, the 50 feet on top can go over the 65, and then the 70 on top can go over the x. Cross multiply, and you're going to get your value of x. Now, this isn't the only way you have to set it up. You could also do 50 over 70, and then 65 over x. Okay? What I do want to warn you about is if you have numbers on the lines that are parallel, that are cutting the pieces, okay? If that happens, then you're going to have to set it up slightly different. And that's the big part where things tend to get messed up, or students tend to go wrong in this section. It's okay to just do things that are across from each other when you're going, between the parallel lines, from up here to down here. But when you're on the parallel lines, then what you're going to have to do is draw separate triangles to work this out. So for example, let me show you here. Let's see, actually, you know what? I don't have one of those, and it's hard to write here. I'll do 1 inch a second that shows you with that. Let's look at the next problem. So here on this problem, the 8 is across from the 12, the 3 is across from the 2, and it's going across the shape, and here are my parallel lines cut at it. So I can just go 8 over 12, 3 over x. Cross multiply, and you're going to get an answer of 4.5. However, though, with this 2 and the y, okay, that's where there's an issue. You can't just go 8 over 12, and here it looks like I must have changed. No, okay, so the 8 over the 12 here, and the 3 over or 2 over y. Okay, you can't do that because it just doesn't work. You'll get the wrong answer. Okay, you have to look at it as if they're triangles if you're working with numbers that are on the lines with the arrows. Okay, on the parallel lines. So if you look at this little triangle here on the tip, you have the 3 and the 2. Okay, and then we have this bigger blue triangle. Now how I get this 11 here is I add the 8 and the 3. So the top of the blue triangle here, this part here is 11. So I labeled that down here, and here's my y that I want to figure out. After you've done that and put the 8 and the 3 together to make the 11, then you can match up things like we've been doing in the lessons before. You can go the 3 matches up with the 11, the 2 matches up with the y, cross multiplying here, 3y equals 22, and divide, and you get y equals 7.3. That is the biggest thing that students tend to mess up in this lesson. So make sure you understand that when the numbers are on the parallel lines, you have to redraw it and think of it as little triangles or big triangles, and then set up your proportions. So here's a problem where you can do the 4 over the 6 and the 10.5 over the x, cross multiply, and we get this answer here of 15.75. Okay, here's the reverse of that rule. If I have a triangle and I have numbers on it, let me just show you an example of it. So this here, they give us numbers, okay? I have numbers on my triangle. I'm trying to figure out, do these lines have to be parallel or not? Well, if they were parallel, then when we set up those proportions, they should work. But this is going to be a little bit different because you're not trying to find x. You're going to have numbers in all your spots. But if you take and do your proportions and then simplify each side, okay, then you're going to see if they're the same. Now in this case, this one simplifies, actually, okay, I'm just showing here a different way of setting it up. So the first one here I did 8 over 15 and then 32 over 25. And then the second way here, I did the 8 over the 32 and the 15 over the 25. Both of these setups are okay. You can do either this one or this one, okay? When I reduce this one over here, I get 9 over 16 and 3 over 5, okay? That doesn't work, so the answer is no, that they are not parallel. However, though, the other way to check it is to cross multiply. If you multiply the one way, and you're going to get a number, a really big number in this case, and you multiply the other way, and you get another big number, if those numbers are the same, then yes, they're parallel. If you get two different numbers when you cross multiply, then no, they're not parallel. Here's just another example. Actually, let's look at this one for a second. So here I can go the 2 over the 6, 3 over the 9. They both reduce down to the same thing. So even though my picture is bad here, they don't look parallel. If this was properly drawn, these would be parallel. The triangle midsegment. Now the triangle midsegment is this line in the middle here that joins the midpoint. We've done midsegments before with our trapezoids. Okay? The midsegment of a triangle has two special characteristics. It's parallel to the bottom side here, or it can be a side over here if it goes the other way. Okay? But it's parallel to this side over here that it's not connected to, okay? And then it's also half as long. So whatever this is double down here. If they gave you this part, then you cut it in half to find the line up here. So here's an example, okay? They tell me that this is 18 over here, then this is going to have to be 9 over here. If they tell me that this is 5 here, then I have to double it and make it 10 there, okay? The trickier part of this is when they're talking about the angles, and I want to know the angles, okay? Angle AFE is this guy right here, and I've already got it filled in. But what you're doing is you're looking at your parallel lines and your transversal. And for me, it helps if I extend the lines to the picture so I can kind of see more of the parallel lines like we looked at in chapter 3. These are alternate interior angles, so they're going to be the same. So that's why this is also 87 degrees. So I want you to look at this one. Think about what's the answer. Pause the video, and then I'll tell you the answer in a second. So pause now. Yep, you just double it, so it is 16. How about this one? They give you 15 on the bottom. What do you think the answer is going to be? Pause now. Yep, that's going to be 7.5 because you just cut it in half. How about this here? They give you that 122. How are you going to figure out the angle over here, the AFD angle? Pause now. Yep, they're just the same. They're 122 degrees. Now, when you have parallel lines, okay, you don't even have to have a triangle. You can set up proportions, which is similar to what we were already doing earlier. So here's an example where I have the 26 and I have x down below it and the 13 and the 16. You just match things up. 26 over x and 13 over 16. Cross multiply and you get x equals 32. You try to set this one up. Pause now and I'll show you the answer in a second. Yep. The answer here is 5. Answer B. Now this is kind of a silly rule, but you see it in your homework some, okay? If you have parallel lines, okay, and when they cut through, these are evenly spaced out, okay? Sometimes they'll mark it, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll mark it on one side and then they won't mark it on the other side. Sometimes they'll mark it on both sides. But even if they didn't mark this side over here, if I know that these two sides are the same, then automatically these two sides over here are also going to be the same. Now, this is going to break what we've normally done because we've been setting up all these proportions. This side over that side, this side over that side. But when you see this in your homework, you're going to like have x's over here and y's over there. And we don't like to mix problems that have x's and y's. It'll make a mess. So when this happens, you're going to want to do these two together. Maybe these have x's, and then do these two together, they have y's. So what I mean by together is I mean this part right here equals this part right here. That's one problem. Figure it out. Then this part over here, maybe it has a y, equals this part down here, and they'll probably have y's. So here's an example. Okay, they marked these two down here to be equal. Even though these don't have to be marked here, I guess here they are. Okay, these are also going to be equal. So you just set them equal to each other, work it out. Okay? You try the y part right now. Pause and I'll show you the answer. So here you should have got an answer for y, that y equals 2. Now this is some of your homework, okay? When you're given the problems like this, you need to go through and label different parts, okay? Now, I do not believe that if the answers you get for 33 automatically transfer down to this one here. So you're going to have to relabel your picture as you do the parts, okay? Here's another one. Relabel your picture as you go through and do your parts. You know, put your different things in. So like CE here is t minus 2. EB here is t plus 1. CD equals 2. And CA, this whole thing here, is 10. Well, if that's 10 and CD is 2, how can I figure out this? Okay, well, the whole thing is 10, this is 2, then I can simply take 10 minus 2 to get that this is going to be 8. You'll need that to set up your proportions that you're working with. Here's another similar example to that, but it's a little bit harder because this part on the outside, after you go through and label all your stuff, okay, this part on the outside here is A. Well, back on this other example here, the outside part was 10, the part that I knew was 2. So if I took the bigger part minus the part I knew, I'd get what was left. Well, in the same sense here, if this is A, and I've already used 7, then this part here has to be A minus 7. Okay? Here's another problem. Just make sure you label your parts as you're working with it with your QR, your WX, you know, label all your parts. Be careful when you're trying to find various things that if it involves the parallel lines, okay, like this one here, and this one here, that you redraw it and look at it as triangles. You can't just do the pieces of it. Okay, you have to look at it as triangles. Especially on this one here. So on this example here, I've already got it labeled. This is number 38. Okay. When you want to find QK here, okay, you are going to need to look at it as its triangles. Okay. When I redraw this little tip here, I get the 2 here and the 3 here, and then this bigger triangle here, redrawn, I know that this is 9. Okay. I'm not going to use the 4 right now. I'm just going to leave that off and ignore it. When you're setting up these problems, it might be useful, instead of saying X for all the missing pieces that you want, to use the letters of the segment that you're working with. That way when you get your answer, you know which one you are excuse me, doing. So with this here, once you have this and redraw the triangles, then you can set up matching parts. So the 3 matches up with the 9, the 2 matches up with the KQ side, cross multiply and work to get your answer. That's all I've got. Good luck with your homework.